out of poverty and themselves. According to the World Bank, just one extra year of schooling can increase a child's income by 10%. When you multiply that across an entire generation, global GDP can raise by trillions. This means you aren't just helping individuals. You would be expanding the markets that your businesses rely on. Conversely, when we refuse to fund schools, we fund systematic instability. A society cannot see when half of its children are in the dark. In addition, the wealth you might have right now might buy you a gated community, but the world outside those gates can burn from economic inflation, can burn from economic neglect. Think about the problems we have in the world today: economic inflation, global climate change, neurological diseases. If we can't solve these problems now, what will happen in 10 years when the people in poverty will continue to have children? When less minds are out of the world, we have less people trying to solve these issues. Every single time a child quits their school to work a low minimum wage job to provide for their family is a mind the world loses. The entire human race takes a step backward. Aside from economics, we need more children, we need more minds in the world to help us solve these issues. This is why organizations like PURE are so important. PURE stands for People for Rural and Urban Education. It began when a woman named Shava Turluri got a call. She was a middle-aged woman, and her mother asked her, "Can you give us food and plates?" Her mother worked in a school for tribal children. This school was really poor. When she got the call, she was asked, "Can you please give us some plates?" So she made money and gathered up a few friends. The school called again and they asked for notebooks. This time she said, "I can only give one, plates or notebooks." The school chose notebooks. Knowing that they get meals, maybe once a day, from the school, they still chose notebooks. This is because they knew that getting an education was their way out of poverty. If I leave you with anything today, let it be this: educational inequality is not caused by a lack of intelligence. It is caused by a lack of resources that we have to provide. There's an old story about a man who's walking along the shore. He sees a bunch of starfish on the sand, and he sees a girl throwing the starfish back into the ocean. He asks the girl, "The shore is going to wash up again. How could you possibly make a difference?" The girl looks at the starfish, she throws it back into the ocean, and she says, "It made a difference to that one." The same applies here. You may not be able to help every single child, but just one donation can completely change the direction of their lives.
Great job, Navia. Great start to the evening. Would anyone in the audience have questions? Please do not be shy. They're trained for this. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Navia, for your insightful take on how to... Oh, sorry. Yes.
How do we donate?
You can donate by getting money to PURE. We host organizations. We host organizations and events that raise money. And by going to those events, you can give money to them.
How do I know they are events?
I can. It's online, and I can also give them to you.
Okay, well, you don't get me.
Any other questions from the audience? Perfect. Thank you so much, Navia, for your insightful take on helping underprivileged children with educational opportunities. This is definitely an issue to focus on to provide a brighter future for the next generation. As a reminder, please do fill out the worksheet with this first awesome speech. Before continuing with the evening, I'd like to welcome the Honorable Senator Linda Greenstein to this event. Senator Greenstein is a politician who represents the 14th Legislative District in the New Jersey Senate. She has had years of professional experience, including being a specialist in disability law, the staff attorney for a community health law project, and the assistant district attorney for the city of Philadelphia. In 2014, she received the Barbara Boggs Sigmund Award, which is presented to a Democratic woman who has had a successful career and who is a leader in promoting policies in support of women and families. This award is presented to those who have made a continuous effort to advance the careers and opportunities for women. Senator Greason has spent her entire career to support and improve the lives of all the people in this nation, and we as New Jerseyans and as Americans are honored to have her represent us and our values.
Thank you. I'm back here. Gives you a chance to stretch your neck. I want to say I've been coming to this Inspire event, and it is inspiring, for about, I would say, 10, I think it's more like 20, because I think I represented South Brunswick at that time, and that was about 20. But anyway, I've heard many excellent speeches, and the whole idea of teaching young people to be good public speakers is extremely important. I want to commend Priya and the entire program for the great job that you do. And this every year the speakers are wonderful, and they talk on all different topics. I always learn something, and really enjoy listening to them. So I hope today, and I'm sure today will be no exception. And thank you all. I can't stay long today because I have some visitors, but I'm going to stay for just a little while here and listen to some more of the speeches. So congratulations to all of you on being part of this great program. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Senator, and thank you for being here today. Next, we have Shani Dutta with this take on the reality people face when coping with the grief of losing a loved one, with a speech called "Grief Isn't the Real Enemy, Loneliness Is."
At the age of 7, kids should be worrying about their homework. Their attention should be drawn to making friends, getting good at their sport, fantasizing about their dreams and wild imaginations. But this privilege that every kid should have of dreaming in their little world isn't a reality for everyone. Getting tucked in bed by your mom, playing video games with your brother, playing catch with your dad, and suddenly all those habits can disappear in an instant. 1 in 12 US children will experience the death of a parent or a sibling by age 18. But we as a community don't walk around actively conscious of this idea. We often assume kids don't have the mental capacity to comprehend the weight of such a dire situation, but we are underestimating their emotional intelligence severely. The impacts of grief don't simply wait for adulthood. It appears in children as a disguise. It hides in a child's anxiety, their unfinished homework, their troublemaking habits in school. And the thing is, when these habits do appear, we as a community antagonize the kid. We often say, "Oh, they're so quiet. Oh, she doesn't have many friends." Or, "Oh, that one's trouble." But the act of empathizing with the kid is nowhere to be seen in our society. When a loved one of a child passes, and the kid has no one who they can connect with or empathize with, it fosters isolation, loneliness. And so grief isn't the real enemy, but it's the loneliness which is caused by the grief. Loneliness is a child staring at the door every night, knowing the person they're waiting for will never walk through it again. It is hearing laughter all around them at school, while their entire world had just collapsed, and it seemed as if not one single person had noticed. These are the effects of loneliness which stir changes in a child's behavior. With smaller children, it could cause them to lash out or act out in anger, harming their classmates. Even worse, it could cause them to put the blame of the death on themselves. As little kids, they often connect things which have no correlation. So for example, if they forgot to make their bed for the day, they might think that their dad passing away is a form of punishment. This type of mindset is extremely harmful to a child's life. On the other hand, with teenagers, social withdrawal and isolation is so common. Losing interest in things they were once truly passionate about, stopping to care about their future, going down dark paths of self-abuse and relentless behavior is all too common. These are the impacts of loneliness, which are detrimental to a child's future. And this is why support matters. Support tells a child, you aren't broken, you aren't invisible, and you don't have to carry this alone. There's a nonprofit organization known as Good Grief, which creates exactly this type of supportive atmosphere. Several days each week, children and families gather together to share a meal, talk, and connect with others who can empathize with each other and understand their pain. Afterwards, children and adults separate into age-based groups led by trained counselors who lead the evening's activities and conversations. The center is designed to hold many different rooms which can help these children process their grief. There is a hospital-themed room filled with medical toys where children can make sense of the illness and loss. There is a Lego-themed room where children can build hospitals, memorials, or other meaningful creations which can help them to express emotions which they may not know yet how to put into words. But perhaps the most powerful part about all this is that no one feels alone. Every child, every sibling, and every parent that walks in knowing that someone there will understand their pain in one way or another. On my first day volunteering at Good Grief, I was helping to serve pizza and hand out water while the families arrived for the evening. And out of nowhere, this tiny little boy came sprinting through the door, and he screamed joyfully, "My family is dead." Soon after, he started eating pizza, playing with stuffed animals, and playing pretend games with these other kids. He pretended this little rolling chair was a throne, and he directed the kids to push him where he wanted to go, as if he were the king of this made-up kingdom. And all this time, every single kid was laughing. I remember standing there, glued to the floor, perplexed. How could a child that had just announced something so heartbreaking be playing and laughing mere moments later? And that is when it clicked. The grief hadn't disappeared. The grief was inevitable. Nothing could erase what had happened to that little boy. Because when someone dear to you, when someone you truly love dies, there is no magical way to avoid that pain. But what can change is whether one goes through that pain alone. That little boy was able to play, laugh, and act like a normal kid because he was surrounded by support. Because he felt safe, he could still be a kid. On top of this, these support systems aren't just limited to being a cushion and a comfort for the child. It can truly elevate them, propel them, and motivate them to a positive trajectory which embraces the support as a result of their past trauma. The thing about grief is that it can inflict tremendous trauma and tremendous guilt. But when it is persevered through, when it is properly dealt with, it can grow tremendous grit. That little boy, the tenacity, the resilience, the maturity which he has grown through this grueling experience isn't just limited to his current problem. It will be significant and invaluable in his future challenges, obstacles, and issues that he will have to face when he is facing them alone. These core principles, which he has built now, will be indispensable in his future. This is why investing in these programs, remembering such issues, and always being conscious of these problems is essential. While these support systems will never be able to erase the pain that grief inflicts, it prevents the grief from consuming the child's entire world. It teaches that even after tremendous loss, joy is still possible. Laughter is still possible, and childhood is still possible.
Excellent, Sean. Thank you for that eye-opening speech. Would anyone in the audience or our chief guest, Senator Greenspan or Mayor Yates, have any questions or comments for Sean? Yes.
Very well presented, gentlemen. It's awesome. It's very inspiring to listen all this, and you have put in your emotion. The way you presented is very good. But just to make you feel not lonely, I have this question. Uh, how do we identify the kids who are in grief? We go to their home, or we expect them to come to the organization that's helping kids?
So that's the whole idea is raising awareness to this issue. When we raise awareness, it provides an outlet so these kids have an option to go to. That's why not forgetting this problem, which might be overshadowed by other problems like hunger or educational disadvantages, is important. This is equally as important. And that's why spreading this information is essential to not forget these kids.
Thank you. Awesome. Very good speech.
Thank you. Before continuing, I would like to welcome our distinguished guest, Mayor Edmund Yates of Plainsboro Township. Mayor Yates has served in the Plainsboro community for nearly 3 decades, first as a township committee member starting in 1998, then as deputy mayor, and now as mayor since January 2025. Over the years, he's helped guide major community projects, from the Princeton Medical Center redevelopment to the revitalization of Plainsboro Village Center, always with an eye towards keeping Plainsboro one of the best places to live in New Jersey to live, learn, and grow. His commitment to young people runs just as deep. A decade leading Cub Scout path, years coaching Little League, and a seat on the committee that selected the township school superintendent. He and his wife raised all 5 of their children right here in Plainsboro. Please give a warm welcome to a leader who spent a lifetime investing in this community's future, Mayor Ed Yates.
Thank you for being here today. I'm sorry I was a little late. I got hung up in traffic coming from another event. But this is tremendous work that you do here with the Inspire Academy. I caught the tail end of that young man's speech. It was really impressive. And he's maintained his cool when I walked in and interrupted him. So that was really impressive of you to be able to do that. So, we love Plainsboro, and most of the people that live here love Plainsboro. So welcome, and welcome to one of the most beautiful hotels in Plainsboro. So thank you for being here today, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the speeches. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those words. Following up is a youth leader hoping to pass down culture by teaching younger kids the language of Telugu. We have Anaga Mega with Language Word Remember.
Eight, 1.5, 90, and 1.3. How could these numbers possibly relate? Well, 8 billion is the number of people who live on this planet. 1.5 billion is the population size of India. 90 million is the number of people in India who speak Telugu, and 1.5 is the number of people in America who speak Telugu. From billions to millions to fractions. Telugu is not only a language, but a culture, a history, and a way of seeing the world. It's been called the Italian of the East because of how musical it sounds. But today, its music is beginning to fade. That is where Manabuddy comes in. Manabuddy is a non-profit organization that is dedicated to preserving this language by teaching it to younger children. It's not only a cause that I support, but a cause that I've lived through. For 5 entire years of my life, I have been a student at Manabuddy. And it's true that I wasn't always excited to spend hours of my week sitting down in a classroom and learning a language. But it's also true that as I continue to learn, I continue to understand, appreciate, and even enjoy the language. As time passed, I graduated level after level, passed test after test, and eventually reached the level in which I am in now. Now, for the last 3 years, I have been what we call a Balaguru. A Balaguru is what we call a teacher's assistant. By stepping on to the other side of the classroom, I've gained a new perspective. As a student, I was simply learning the language, but as a teacher, I was watching as other students discovered it for themselves. By volunteering here, I learned that preserving a language isn't just about memorizing vocabulary that comes straight from a textbook, but rather about giving a child the opportunity to speak to their grandparents, about giving this same child a community where they can fit in. I've seen as students go from struggling to speak a simple sentence to confidently holding conversations. And I've seen as parents, as many of you here, have gotten so excited over the opportunity to bond with their child in a way that is so special to them. I want you to think of language as a bridge. On one side, we have culture and we have history. On the other side, we have these children who've been moved so far away from their ancestry. Without this bridge, these two things get farther and farther apart. But with this bridge, they get closer. There's movement of stories and history to finally create what we call culture. We often think of culture as something that is important to us, but we truly have to remember to protect it. Manabuddy is helping build this bridge, and I've had a chance to help lay the bricks. We often think of language learning as cultural and emotional, but it's also intellectual and, quite frankly, necessary. We treat subjects such as math and science as the most important because of how important they are to our future and to our success. But we often forget that learning a new language has so many of the same benefits. Many studies have proved that they result in better problem-solving skills, and much more better long-term memory, and even more cognitive flexibility. Learning a language is like exercise, but for your brain. I've seen students and adults who have grown up speaking multiple languages, switching through modes of communication, and they grow up to be some of the most flexible and adaptive people that I know. Bilingualism is especially important in the workforce. In fields such as healthcare, education, and medicine, the ability to communicate is extremely valuable. It makes you stand out against so many other well-rounded people. But besides careers and academics, we have one more important question that we do have to ask. What kind of world do we want to live in? The kind of world where all cultures eventually become the same? Because to me, that sounds like a tragedy. Volunteering at Manabuddy has given me a new perspective. It's shown me how just a few hours can change the lives of so many people. A single class can spark curiosity. A single conversation can spark confidence. And a single child can push a language for
for generations to come. This doesn't just apply to Telugu, but to every other language and culture that is at risk of being lost in such a fast-moving world. We often think of progress as moving forward and leaving things behind. But true progress includes preservation. There's been so many times where I walked into class and students did not want to participate. I had to encourage them through games, through jokes, or simply just reading out the things to them. Anything that got them to enjoy the language. Because once they enjoyed it, everything changes. We all have that one thing, whether it's a story, a memory, a song, our culture, or our very identity. We all have that one thing that is important to us. We just constantly choose to protect it, to push it to our children, or to show it to our friends. So when you think back to those numbers, 8, 1.5, 90, and 1.3, don't just see statistics. See people, see families, and see stories.
Lovely speech, Annika. It was a speech so personal, yet so relatable. Does anyone in the audience or any of our guests have questions? Yes.
Hi. Hi, is this working?
Is this had a green
Hello.
light on it?
Hi.
Okay, I got it now. All right. So it was a great speech. You called it the Italian of the East, and I think it's important to maintain your culture because as generations go on, it doesn't go away, but it just kind of fades into the background. So can you speak some first?
Oh, right now?
Yes.
Do you have anything you would like me to say?
And just say hello to everybody and have a nice day. How's that?
Sure. నమస్కారం ఈ రోజు అందరికీ బాగుంటుంది అని నేను కోరుకుంటున్నాను.
Lovely question. Any other questions from the audience? Or comments? Thank you, Annika, for reminding us about the importance of culture being passed down through generations. It's definitely an integral part of all our lives. Now, let's please have on the stage Samartha Shrigopar with Beyond Diagnosis, who is dedicated to providing support for elderly individuals.
Imagine walking into a room and seeing someone you have loved your entire life. A parent, a grandparent, a close friend. You recognize their face immediately. You know this person is important to you. And yet, for some reason, their name simply will not come to mind. For a moment, you feel confused, frustrated, and even a little scared. Now, imagine this being lasting, not for a couple of seconds, but for hours, days, months, and even years. For the millions of people suffering from dementia and other cognitive illnesses, that confusion can be a part of everyday life. Across the country, 30% of elderly individuals suffer from cognitive illnesses like dementia. Dementia affects memory, communication, reasoning, and decision making. People struggle daily from memory loss, confusion, and isolation. But the thing about dementia is that although it may be as devastating as this, it does not erase a person's humanity. The person behind the diagnosis essentially remains. This is because a diagnosis can change the way a person thinks or remembers, but it does not erase that person's core identity. The things that make a person who they are, such as their life experiences, values, and relationships, still matter. People often think of dementia as a condition primarily defined by loss. Loss of memory, loss of communication, loss of strength. Although these things are true, in fact, one of the key defining features of the illness, they do not tell the whole story. And so, focusing only on them prevents us from seeing the whole picture. The truth is that these people still want to feel respected, valued, and included. They still have stories, emotions, and experiences that are worth sharing. Think about your own life for a moment. Imagine spending an entire day without having a meaningful conversation with a person who genuinely cares about you. For many people with cognitive illnesses, this can become a daily reality. And that is where the main issue lies. Oftentimes, these people do receive medical care and support, but those things only go so far. There's one thing that medicine alone can never provide, and that is the need for genuine human connection. I learned this lesson firsthand through my volunteer work at St. Joseph Assisted Living and Senior Home in Woodbridge, New Jersey. When I first started working there, one of the first things I noticed was how much residents valued simple conversation. Something as simple as sitting down next to them and listening to them talk could go a long way in changing their mood. Many residents wanted to talk about their lives, which helped me realize something. I realized that before receiving a diagnosis, these people had lived excellent and successful lives, in which many did very good things, such as raising families and making a positive impact on the world. Their lives could not be characterized simply by an illness. One of the biggest experiences I had while working here was involving a music activity. Familiar songs began playing throughout the room. Some residents, who were usually very quiet, suddenly became active and energetic. Some started singing along, others started smiling, and others started sharing memories related to those songs. Watching this transformation was incredibly powerful. It taught me that even when memories can be difficult to access, strong emotions and connections often remain. At that moment, I realized that dementia does not stop a person from finding joy in things. The residents were not focused at that time on what they had forgotten. Instead, they were focused on a specific thing that still brought meaning to their lives. Another experience had to do with day to day normal conversation. Some residents would start talking, only to suddenly lose their train of thought. You could see the frustration on their faces. They wanted to say something, and now they did not have the words to say it. But over time, I learned that when something like this happened, the residents were not looking for an instant solution. Sometimes all they wanted was patience. This told me that helping does not always mean doing something fancy. Sometimes it means just being there. Sometimes it can mean being a supportive figure. And other times it can just mean talking to these people. While working here, I was also fortunate enough to see the impact dementia has on families. I saw the residents, the kids, and the relatives of the residents drop in from time to time and have a good time with them. I saw them laughing, having fun, making good memories. They were essentially making the most of what they could, even when the situation was hard. This changed a misconception I had never fully questioned before. I had always viewed dementia as a condition associated with loss. But this experience taught me that while those losses do exist, these people still have retained many things, particularly the ability for friendship, humor, happiness, and connection. Essentially, although they did lose things, what they still had greatly outweighed their loss. As our population continues to age, the number of people suffering from these illnesses is only going to increase. This issue is going to affect our families, societies, and the public. But the question is not whether dementia will affect our families. The question is how we choose to respond. And the good thing about that is that there's no medical knowledge or any other type of pre-knowledge required. It starts with something as simple as conversation. Visit an elderly relative. Volunteer at a senior center or an assisted living facility. Support caregivers. Learn more about dementia and the challenges it poses. And most importantly, learn to treat the patients with the dignity and respect that they deserve. For too often, people with dementia are spoken about rather than spoken to. Taking the time to include them in day-to-day conversation, or even acknowledging their presence, can go a long way in helping them establish a sense of independence and self-worth. We do not yet have all the answers as to how we can make that desired impact. But to be honest, we don't really need them. You see, for these residents, they only need three simple things: to be seen, heard, and valued. A few minutes of conversation can brighten someone's day. A smile can help them feel included. And a willingness to listen can help them feel valued. These things may seem small to us, but for people who have not had a genuine human interaction for a long time, it can mean the world to them. But of course, while all this is happening, our perspective matters just as much. If we choose to view people solely through the lens of their illness, we risk overlooking their humanity. But if we choose to see the person behind the diagnosis, then we create opportunities for connection, compassion, and empathy. So, when you leave here today, I do not want you remembering a simple statistic or a medical definition. I want you to remember something much simpler, something you'll take with you for the rest of your lives. The next time you hear the word dementia or see a patient suffering from dementia, do not just think about the illness. Think about the person behind the diagnosis. Think about the stories they still carry. Think about the emotions they still feel. Think about the connections they still seek. And most importantly, think of the roles each one of us can play in helping them feel seen, heard, and valued. Because even when memories fade, humanity remains.
Such a heart-touching speech, Martha. Thank you for that. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments for Martha? Please do not be shy.
Do you have a question?
Okay, then.
There's one question.
Oh, sorry.
Was it too delayed to ask the question? All right.
No.
You did really well, and I think the things that you said is going to really remain. The see, be heard, be valued, those are truly true ones for anybody, right? So you learned a lot, I can see from your volunteering. What was one challenge that you saw through, and whatever resulted or a solution that you got, how did that inspire you?
So, like I said before, one of the things I found was that going back to the place where they would start talking and then suddenly forget. At that moment, at first, I would like randomly rush in instantly and try to help them. And that was the problem because that was basically more that's basically very hard to do. But 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 from that, I learned that these people are not always looking for instant solutions, and sometimes it just means being present. So this thing, in answer to your question, it taught me that you should always that sometimes helping does not mean doing something fancy, just being there.
So thank
So thank you, Martha, for showing us how we can help and give back to the elderly individuals around us to provide them more comfort and support. We're going to be taking a short pause from the speeches and have all the youth leaders today head to the back to take a picture with Senator Greenstein.
Hello.
Let's fix the whiteboard. Good luck.
Okay, so we will continue with our questions. Hope you guys enjoyed that mini bonus session. There will also be many more chances for those at the end. Moving along is going to be an interesting topic on giving medical equipment a second life and to those in need. Done by Archie Villani with his speech titled Mobility Accessible for All.
Waking up and being unable to walk, not for a week, not for a month, not for a year. Knowing that every step that you take either causes pain or that you are unable to even take steps at all. Now, consider this. Somewhere around the world, there exists a wheelchair, a walker, or a pair of crutches that could indefinitely change your life for the better. But you will never receive it. Not because it does not exist, but because we were born in the wrong place. Many of us today either will walk to our cars, climb those stairs, and overall not think twice when it comes to mobility. This is because mobility is so common in our daily lives that it is often seen as invisible. But for millions of people around the world, mobility, unfortunately, is not guaranteed. Mobility for them, instead, is a wish. Many of us overlook these ideas because we've never had to live without them. For us, we take mobility for granted because we've always had access to it. But when that access disappears, it changes every aspect of a person's life. According to the World Health Organization, over 2.5 billion people around the world need access to a wheelchair, a walker, a hearing aid, or a prosthetic device. Furthermore, nearly 1 billion people around the world lack the sufficient resources to treat their condition. This shows that it is not actually the lack of equipment that is struggling for them, but actually that they are not receiving the correct resources to treat their condition. Furthermore, in many rural communities around the world, basic medical conditions are extremely limited. An elderly lady who struggles to walk may never receive a walker. A teenager who got injured from sports may never receive a pair of crutches. And someone who needs a wheelchair may stay confined to a bed for the rest of their lives, or they may be dependent on their family member for every task in their life. Instead of participating in life, all three of these examples are examples of how they are watching life pass by. For us, this is very difficult for us to understand because we've never personally firsthand experienced this. You may not think about it, but we see a wheelchair and we see an object. We see a walker and instead we see a tool. Yet, for millions of people around the world, they see a wheelchair, they see freedom. When they see a walker, they see independence. And these are just some of the ways that these medical equipment can genuinely change their life better. This is why I really care about this cause, because it's not just about the wheelchair, the walker, pair of crutches. It's not about the medical equipment. It is really about the people. It is whether a child can go outside and play with their friends. It is whether a family can put food on the table for their starving children. At the core, it is about human dignity. This is why I really wanted to get involved with this cause. Why I joined Care for Medical Equipment. Care for Me, which stands for Care for Medical Equipment, is a nonprofit organization that collects used medical equipment and sends it out to communities where this medical equipment is extremely limited. Throughout volunteering, I help prepare, sort, and send much of the equipment while managing Care for Me's internal wealth. When I started working at Care for Me, I viewed the work that I did as simple community service. At Cherokee High School, you need at least 40 community service hours to get the National Honor Society, and I view this as a way for me to get this achievement. Instead, as I worked throughout, I realized that it was much more than just community service hours. Every wheelchair that I've had represented someone's independence. Every walker represented someone taking steps that they weren't able to take before. And every pair of crutches represented a chance for recovery. Before I started working at Care for Me, I thought that having a major impact on life required major sacrifices and dramatic actions. But instead, I was deeply wrong. While working at Care for Me, I really realized that the truest forms of impact came from connecting existing resources that were already available to communities where they extremely needed these resources. This also shows how a lack of equipment was never a problem. You may not realize this, but the equipment was never the problem because there's a mass of this equipment. But in general, the equipment and the people were separated by a lack of distance. This also challenges the way that we define accessibility. Many people think that accessibility is a local issue that is only shown in certain communities. But if we're being realistic, accessibility is a global issue. The ability to work, learn, and overall live life should not be determined based on how much money you have or your location in the world. Yet, for millions of people around the world, this is the true reality. So I just want to leave you guys off with this. The next time that you see a wheelchair, a walker, a pair of crutches, any medical device, don't just see an object. See opportunity. See someone else's freedom. Because to them, it might not seem just as a medical equipment, but to them, it seems as a way of a pathway for employment, education, and community. Sometimes, changing a life does not require a breakthrough discovery or miracle. Sometimes, all it takes is ensuring that the available resources go to the people who need it the most. Thank you.
Awesome speech, Arjun, and very informative as well. Does anyone in the audience or Mayor Yates have any questions? Yes.
Hi, great speech. Last summer, my granddaughter broke her ankle and she was staying for us for several weeks. We bought a wheelchair, crutches, walker. Very rarely used it because she healed very quickly. And for the last year, we've been trying to find some place to donate this equipment. We tried to sell it, but messed it up, on Facebook Marketplace. They will not let you sell used medical equipment. So I appreciate you bringing the speech. Now I have some place where I can donate it. I just want to ask you, look for Care for Me on their website and where I can contact them.
Yes, so if you type in caresforyou.com, you will find our website, and I actually manage the website. So if you go to, there's a donate link where you can fill out all the certain information to actually prepare this procedure, and this will allow us to get your information, and then we can set up an arrangement where we can get the wheelchair, walker, pair of crutches, whatever you need, and we can donate to communities where it actually is needed.
Oh, great, thank you, great speech, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Great speech. I just have a question. How do you figure out who requires it and how do you get it to them?
So I live inside the same neighborhood as the founder of the nonprofit. So he actually has certain communities like around the world. So we have communities in Africa and communities in India where the medical resources are already very limited. So we get their information and we schedule an appointment. Like sometimes I know the founder has been to India before and actually donated equipment firsthand, but also we can schedule shipments to the people who really need it. So
Thank you. And okay, great. Thank you, Arjun, for your fascinating speech on how old medical equipment can be used again to provide medical support for those in need. And this is just a reminder to all students to continue filling out your worksheets about the extraordinary speeches you're hearing today. Now let's have Aditya Vijaykumar join us with Food for Thought, a young leader who wants to tackle the food insecurity issue that many face in New Jersey and globally.
I would like for everybody here to imagine what they had for breakfast. Was it a bowl of cereal, a sack of pancakes, a slice of toast? Now, imagine you didn't have breakfast this morning. Seems normal. After all, this fast-paced society that we all live in today, a rush day like this is completely fine. But now let's imagine that that rush day slowly turns into days, to weeks, to months, until suddenly there is no breakfast, neither lunch nor dinner, simply faith. What I just described, it isn't a disease or a diet gone wrong. It's a lifestyle of somebody dealing with food insecurity. One of the most prevalent issues in the nation that we even forget about day to day. According to the USDA, roughly 7 of the American population deal with this on a daily basis. That's about 49 million people right there, and it doesn't get any worse in a broader scale. As according to the World Health Organization, roughly 2.3 billion people deal with this. That's about 28% of the world's population. Food insecurity isn't just characterized by hunger or poverty, it's characterized by something even greater, an uncertain or limited access to adequate food. Keyword, adequate. After all, a human body needs much more than air or oxygen to survive. It needs nourishment. That in the form of food. As macronutrients, whether it's a bowl of instant ramen or a 5-course meal, those supply macronutrients to us in the forms of carbohydrates, lipids, fats, and proteins that keep us nourished, satiated, and energized. I, for one, have never dealt with food insecurity on a broad scale. However, I never understood the importance of food and food limitation until I started volunteering for the American Red Cross. I grew up in a heavily competitive environment where education was incredibly valued, as well as your future. Instead of thinking about breakfast or whatever I was going to eat, I was thinking about more prioritized things. What college I was going to apply to as a freshman, what classes I was going to take, what sort of connections I was going to build with the people around me. It wasn't until I started volunteering for the American Red Cross through my school's Red Cross Club that I finally realized the importance of food. It was our school's PB&J event. The premise was simple. High school students volunteering like us would make PB&Js and then put them in a bag with a bag of chips and a juice box and then ship them out to a homeless center. Simple. What I didn't actually understand was how much information I was getting and how much of an impact that would have on my worldview of food and even rebuild. That night, we made 133 PB&Js. Seems pretty average for a group of high school students. However, it's not just about what we made, but also what's inside of them. Let's look a little deeper. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or a PB&J as we all know it, is an American classic. But it's not just an American classic. Its potent nutritional value can even make it an American lifesaver. A PB&J contains peanut butter, jelly, and 2 slices of bread. 3 simple ingredients that contain 4 macronutrients, 4 macromolecules that are required for us to live. Carbohydrates from bread, protein and fats, and lipids from peanut butter, as well as fiber and lipids from the jam or jelly that's placed inside. Those, those 3 ingredients placed together can make it a life-saving meal for someone dealing with food insecurity or a limited access to food. Multiply that by 133, and you have 133 not just stomachs filled, but lives nourished and lives fit to keep on going. I was astonished. How could I, along with a group of dumb high schoolers, make such an impact on our own community? Well, it's not just hunger or poverty that makes food insecurity the issue it is today. It's something even worse. Our own systems and even society as a whole. while food insecurity is often encouraged and influenced by other external factors such as hunger or poverty, as I mentioned before, it's also influenced by our own culture. Since the 1980s, where obesity was a prevalent issue back then, food has been a rising issue, mainly in the context of trying to reduce eating, as well as maintain a satiating sort of balance between not eating and eating excessively. However, that has been while it has worked out in the short run, it hasn't had a great effect on us. According to the World Health Organization, altogether, roughly a fourth of teenagers worldwide deal with some sort of mental health disease tied to their own personal appearance. One of these are eating disorders, bulimia nervosa, anxiety, binge eating, and even plain eating disorders that can often be noted anywhere. Food insecurity is also a direct result of that. But not just the effect that our own government has had, but even our own culture fostered by social media. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram have been a prime base for dieting cultures as well as fitness influencers. However, the culture that is being promoted is incredibly harmful, with people being encouraged to often being limited to 2 or even no meals a day. Imagine that, no meals a day. While that is often validated in the context of fasting or other religious tolerances, oftentimes in the long run, something like that is called a fake, especially in a wide variety of things. Food is now being seen not only as a life-saving substance, but as a burden. Think about it. Something that keeps you nourished, tastes good, and can even keep you energized and satiated, being seen as a burden, something that you would rather withdraw, and something that you would rather have better things to do. This just shows not only is food security just influenced by hunger, poverty, and other external economic factors, but even the culture that we foster within ourselves. Doctors say, after all, that a teenager needs food to grow and become a functioning adult in society. However, the culture that we're fostering is incredibly contradicting to that. And more teenagers, rather than having rates of obesity, are even having rates of withdrawing from eating disorders, and even going through other diseases that are caused by withdrawals. So we need to work more. So not only do we need to work more on fostering better cultures around eating, but even just donating something that can help satiate people going through this is incredibly helpful. That's not just what the American Red Cross is for, though. The American Red Cross has been our number one source of aid since the 1880s, giving food, shelter, as well as medical assistance to people in need in dire circumstances. Events like 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, and so many other natural as well as human-made disasters have been effectively mitigated by the American Red Cross. However, food isn't just a substance that we eat and as well as as well as build culture around. It's not only just a life-saving substance. It's a need that a lot of us agree on, but for some reason we can never foster. So it's not just building it dollar by dollar, but also building it person by person, community by community, and most importantly, plate by plate. Thank you.
Awesome speech, Aditya. Thank you for talking about more about the issue. Now, I want to open the stage to more inquisitive questions from the audience. Yes.
Good speech. Question for you. Volunteering for American Red Cross or food banks and donating food, donating money are great moral causes, and they do help, but it's a temporary fix at best. In your opinion, what's the permanent fix to world hunger? I have an idea, and I think you hinted earlier on in your speech about what you were responsible for when your parents affected you growing up. So, in your opinion, what's the permanent fix for world hunger?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
Your permanent fix for solving world hunger.
Well, of course, there are a lot of external factors that influence like hunger like worldwide. So fixing world hunger, then again, could be like a possibility, but it's not necessarily like able to reach now. But at least ways to like mitigate it are well, what I said, like building a more like inclusive culture towards eating, but even just like donating a lot of nutritional items specifically to like people in locations in need could be like really helpful.
Right. I was trying to drive at a point that you mentioned earlier, and I think that, in my personal opinion, the solution to a lot of our social problems is education. You know, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, you teach him how to fish, you feed him for life. So a lot of those, social problems that we have, as you said, is very important in the family to get an education. And I think that solves a lot of our social issues. And I think you hit on it earlier in your speech, but you kind of talked about the personal aspect of it and not how that might help in the world on the, correction. And so thanks for the light that you gave us today.
Any other questions from the audience? Okay. Thank you, Vidya, for your keen observations on the food insecurity problem, which is prevalent not only locally, but globally as well. We appreciate your efforts in remedying the issue. Now, let's come listen to Shruti Juicy, who spent her influencer journey targeting period poverty and spreading awareness on the topic, with her speech, Cycle for Strength.
For a teenage girl, typically between the ages of 12 and 16 years old, having to go through a natural body process that has solutions and aids that you don't have access to is extremely unfair. Period poverty remains an issue globally. All throughout the world, there have been many articles, projects, and research based all around. But specifically in New Jersey, it's also a very significant issue. In fact, 2 in 5 magistrates in central New Jersey deal with this problem. And most often than not, people think that issues like this only affect the person going through it. But this is completely inaccurate. For example, the mad, elderly, or children in this room might not see how this problem can be significant to them, but it applies in many different ways. For example, a husband coming home from a long day of work, hoping that their wife or kid has taken the kids out for a walk. The dog has been fed and a meal has been prepped. But instead, we see her wife passed out on the couch from exhaustion, from going through a simple daily life. Or a son who's gone through a long day of school, had soccer practice, and is waiting for a good meal or their dog to play with. Or maybe just waiting to have a meaningful conversation with their mom about how their day went. But instead, they open their front door and their dad's told them that their mom headed to bed an hour previous. Not because she had an argument at work or many meetings, but simply because she was exhausted by going through a process her body forces her to go through that she does not have access to resources for. This is more common than talked about. In fact, in central New Jersey, 1 in 4 magistrates deal with this issue. It's labeled as absenteeism. And absenteeism is someone reported missing school or work due to a lack of resources. And this affects not just the people that someone interacts with every single day, but also in other environments too. For example, a kid in school, working on a school project, or at work in a collective atmosphere. Someone having a mass amount of absences can lead to prolonging consequences and a bad effect on it as a whole. Absenteeism leads not only to the person and everyone around them going through a lot, but can also create a bad effect in general. But period poverty itself isn't a bad situation and is most likely easy to handle at a smaller scale. Despite it being a global issue that can be extremely hard to tackle without billions of dollars and millions of people contributing, it can be solved by each and every single person in this room at some extent. For example, when a woman gets pregnant, she lacks her period for 9 months. Most often than not, she has a spare pad of pads sitting in her bedroom that she's not going to use. Or a girl's going to college, into the workforce, she won't be home for a while, and she has spare products sitting in her bathroom drawer that so easily could be taken from her house, driven 10 minutes down the street to a drive, to a center that can impact many people. It can not only benefit one person, but a whole community and create a lasting impact. In fact, in Princeton, New Jersey, there's an organization called YWCA. And this organization does not only target period poverty, but tries to eliminate women's racism, advocate for women's rights, and gender equality as well. Altogether, this organization helps a lot with people's surroundings. All around, to do with periods, despite it being known that it's a natural process that most women go through, it has this sort of stigma around it. It's seen as embarrassing. It's mortifying for people to go through. And the thought of a teenage girl bleeding through her pants, having to go up to her teacher and ask them to go to the bathroom because she's afraid she's had an accident is absolutely embarrassing. For people who go through period poverty, not only the lack of resources they have to reach out to get through that most of the general public has, they also have to reach out and say that they don't have help to deal with this, and it can happen more than once. It's a prolonging consequence and an issue that simply cannot be solved. When I first started working with YWCA, I was told to host a drive. In the interview process, I had asked one of the ladies about the situation. After having a small discussion, she had asked me why, at my age, and going through nothing similar to this, how I could be so passionate about something like this. I simply told her about a story that had happened the day before. Two of my friends came walking in after third period to lunch. One of them had an extremely solemn look on their face, and the other looked happy. I had asked the one that looked upset what had happened, and she told me that the other one had made a joke about her bleeding through her pants in front of a bunch of people in the school hallways. Looking at her for the remainder of the lunch period, it was appalling to me how someone who had resources to tend to this problem and could reduce the risk of this actually happening to her was so upset about it. How must someone who had zero access to anything that could prevent this feel? This led to me hosting the drive. All throughout the drive, I had to email several different locations, different organizations, different people. And most of the time, my response I got back was sorry, but we don't have enough space for this. A higher authority has said no, or we had previous commitments. But not only did this teach me that this problem did not have enough significance and awareness in our community, but that it had a lasting impact on everyone. Hosting the drive, when I reached out and got these no's back, not only did it teach me about the awareness, it also taught me that so many people had no idea what was going on. They had reached out and told me that, sorry, I didn't know this was an issue. But along with this, they had told me about so many other times they thought this issue had been a problem. I reached out and told them the significance of the drive, why I wanted to host this, why the problem was relevant. And almost every single time I had emailed a woman that had reached back and told me how much their friend, their cousin, their niece could have benefited from something like this. The significance of the issue helped me a lot. It realized how one small deed could help a lasting community. The next time I had told my friends, you can borrow my pencil. We can work on a school project. I made sure to inform them and everyone that I came across, especially when it had to do something, like giving someone a pad or something to do with something in the situation. I told them about how one small action, one small deed could impact not just a specific group of people, but a whole community and shape the outcome of an environment as a whole. Thank you.
Amazing speech, Ruby, truly amazing. Thank you for touching on a topic that can be so easily overlooked. Now, does the audience have any questions for Shruti? Yes?
Yes, great speech. Have you thought about approaching school districts to provide supplies for the girls?
Yeah. So I reached out to my school, but they had a bunch of drives already happening in the month of May, so I couldn't really work with them. But I reached out to my previous elementary school to see if after the drive I can make a more lasting impact and have them continue on by having maybe each grade provide a different resource that could total into making care packages or something like that to then donate to the drives and impact more people around Jersey.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thank you, Shruti, for touching and explaining such a prevalent issue globally and ways to work together to improve period poverty for all. Now, we'll be having a short 15-minute break. Please feel free to go to the back and grab some food and interact with our youth leaders. But please be sure to come back to your seats by 4:45 as there's more youth leaders waiting to share their ideas.
We have some slight snacks at the back. Please
Approximately 20 million children in the United States suffer with clothing insecurity. Clothing insecurity is by not having appropriate, seasonal, and non-fitted clothes. Without having these type of clothing for children, they can miss school days, which is a lack of education, and miss physical activities. A statistic shows that 6 out of 10 people do not reuse the same clothes that they have worn before. What's just as important as food, what's just as important as clothes that we use every single day for our body is food. Food is highly essential for the human body. It gives us all the nutrients that we need for the whole 24 hours, whether for sleeping or awake. Think about it this way. You have a construction worker and you have a student in high school. Two different people, right? Well, a construction worker can carry bricks and operate heavy machinery. And a student has to wake up early, probably skipping breakfast, and immediately learning. Without having any type of nutrients before you go into a workplace, your mind and your body will not be on the same page. The construction worker can lose their strength, and the student can lose focus and concentration, allowing them not to finish their studies. Another statistic is that over 60 million cans are being perished every year, whether if it's because they're not being used properly or they're just rotting in someone's pantry. I realize that kids and adults lack the basic necessities for everyday life, like food, water, and clothes. Knowing this information, I wondered, what could I do to help? Instead of talking about the situation, the problem, I decided to take matters into my own hands and join an organization called RFC, as known as Ready for Change, based in Hopewell, New Jersey, by collecting and donating used clothes and canned food. When I joined RFC, I didn't do it for myself. I didn't do it to make myself feel better. I did it with a purpose, a stripe, to make sure that the underprivileged kids are able to get what they want. Ever since I was a kid, all the way up to now, I can say that I'm so grateful for everything. I have a family, friends, education, food, toys, and many more. But there are kids out there, kids near my communities, who aren't able to access that, who aren't able to have that. I'm making it my goal to make sure the kids in my communities and further beyond are able to get what they need in life, so they can happily enjoy. The next time you clean out your closet or reach for a snack, remember that these type of things may seem small to you, but to others, they can mean hope, confidence, and comfort. By donating things that we no longer need, we can help ensure that kids and adults are able to not worry about where their clothes are coming from and what their next meal is. Thank you.
Great, Sharon. Thank you for informing us about this growing issue. Now, the floor goes to the audience again. Do you have any questions or comments on the speech? Yes?
That's one question.
Very great speech. The question that I have here, there are so many topics that are so many things that which passionates you. Why did you choose this as your topic? And what exactly did you do to alleviate some of the things that you see or saw in your community?
Uh, One of the reasons why I chose this topic to talk about today is because there are kids in my communities and many more that don't have these things. And so I try and do my best and donate as many clothes as I can and food to those kids and then adults. So what I did was
what I did was going to door, handing out flyers about if you're interested in donating clothes and food. And if they're interested, they would call me back and I would pick them up and donate them to the nearest Goodwill or thrift store.
Great. Thank you, Sharon, for showing us how something so basic as food or clothing can make such an impact on other people's lives. Now, let's try to hear efforts on helping students learn English as their second language through one-on-one coaching and speech titled Beyond the Classroom by Neil Javeri.
Everyone here, have you ever traveled to a different country where you didn't speak their language? For example, Japan, India, Italy, and even Britain. Now, I assume you want your airport manager or hotel concierge to speak English. But imagine it was vice versa. Imagine they spoke their national language. For example, in Japan, they'll speak Japanese, but you don't know Japanese. What do you do? Do you feel helpless, or would you want to actually learn Japanese prior? Now, how would you feel if you didn't understand the language? You'd feel isolated, unknowing it. Now imagine people in America not knowing English. Sometimes they can't even afford a lesson to learn English. For example, one day I was in my lunchroom in the cafeteria. My friends were speaking French. They were laughing and giggling, and I was wondering, what are you guys saying? They said, don't worry, it's just a French joke, you won't get it. I was really intrigued by that. Later on in the day, I went online and I saw multiple resources like websites and different types of communities online. What I noticed was a common denominator: monthly and yearly fees. I did not understand just because I wanted to learn a language, I had to pay. Then I went on to Duolingo, which is a famous language learner app. On Duolingo, I was a level 4 at French. Personally, I'm a level 1. I know bonjour and au revoir. When I started this volunteer experience, I went to an elementary school. I saw students that were ESL, English as a second language. These kids were motivated. They had resilience. They had fun jokes and fun games for me when I arrived. What I noticed was that they didn't go and listen to their teacher based on an academic reason. If the teacher had a fun game to do and the teacher spoke in Spanish to them, they understood and they listened. The problem in schools today is that there are 20 kids per classroom. Now, a certain kid might not have specific skill sets to match the 20 kids around them. One kid might be at a 4th grade level, while the other kid might be at a 2nd grade level. This goes the same for adults. An adult, many like immigrants or many people who move to America later on in their life, might not know English, as well as their peers or family members. Now, if you look back to the younger kids, understanding that they want to learn, but not being motivated, that isolation that they feel can either be a good or bad thing. For example, if you move to America at an age like me, 17 years old, imagine you are in calculus class and your teacher is saying a word problem. You do not understand a thing. Now, would you, A, want to learn English to understand and get better at your academic, or 2, not go to the class at all? You'll feel unmotivated and not willing to actually learn something just because it's hard. This is a huge problem that America sees now, with ESL students and ESL adults, young adults as well. To face a better community, to have grown, this is why Literacy Volunteers of Somerset County is a super important organization. Their mission is to teach English language to the community itself, for young adults and people who want to learn, whether it is they're not the best at English or they're finally learning a new language. Coming into this, I had a mindset of a volunteer. I'll help people as much as they can. I will find a one-on-one person and understand their skill set. That's why it's specifically good to understand what everyone can have. If they know a little bit and they don't know how to structure sentences or have a grammatical attachment, I can always help you out. What I learned in kids is very similar to the adults. These kids will want to have anything. They have resilience. What I want to tell you is that language is just a form of communication. Language should not be a barrier for opportunity. In order to have your one-on-one type of tutoring concept, and the stigma of tutoring should not be as low as it is. You should be optimistic about tutoring, one-on-one. You're getting better at something that you want to learn. You should be optimistic about learning something new. Now, this is why it's super important. This is a huge awareness that we're growing. Imagine you becoming a volunteer and spending 1 hour a week, 1 hour a month, and spending the time to teach a language you already know. Imagine people who really need it, with financial issues or anything, that can have free opportunities to want to learn a language and you're giving it to them. How would that make you feel, and how would that change your community? Thank you.
Love the speech, Nate. Thank you for sharing your passion on learning languages. Now, any questions for me?
Become a volunteer.
You sign up on the website and you'll get a student to volunteer match. You'll be conversing with the people who run the website, and when you match your student, you'll meet with them weekly.
So is it only for ESL students or?
ESL students, more like ESL, like young adults. It could be anyone, and the volunteers can be anyone in the community.
What's your website name once again?
Literacy Volunteers of Somerset County.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, great. Thank you, Nate, for joining us to means such a bonding force between people and the power of communication. Next, we have Sohan Murtha, who aspires to spread mental health awareness and help empower neurodiverse individuals by providing them with necessary equipment and opportunity in speech, changing perceptions, changing lives.
Four.
Make sure you don't pull on the wire. Your jacket's pulling on the wire, so maybe you just unbutton your jacket maybe for so when you're pulling on the wire it's making a noise. Or just put the whole thing inside your jacket pocket instead of your pocket of the wires.
Sure. That's fine, yeah.
Priya, can you take the thing out of this? It's making a lot of noise. It's okay. It's whenever you move, it's making. Which one? This one is. Yeah, put that in your jacket pocket and unbutton his pocket.
Yeah, just put it in that. Yeah, but
He hasn't opened it.
oh, he hasn't.
You enter your first period classroom on a Monday morning. Moments later, your teacher asks your class a simple question. The student on your right taps his pencil vigorously against the table. The student on your left looks at the ceiling, while the two kids in the back are just dozing off. Firstly, you ask yourself, why are these kids acting this way? Is this the new norm in most households, schools, and other public environments? Maybe this might not be the right question to ask yourself. Maybe it's just that there's kids, students around you that perceive and interpret society and the rest of the world differently. Later that day, I came across a picture called the Duck Rabbit logo. When I first looked at this picture by myself, all I saw was a duck. Trying to figure out where the rabbit was in the illusion, I showed my mom immediately. But just after seconds looking at the picture, she saw the rabbit. Snatching my phone from my mom, flipping the phone, rotating it 90 degrees, I was trying to figure out where the rabbit was in the picture. And finally, I did find it. Just understanding that there was both a duck and a rabbit in one picture, I finally understood something. There's not always one right or wrong answer in the world, but rather there are millions. And sometimes there's just different perceptions or interpretations of something that's the same. Just like how most students, high schoolers, or undergrads try to find volunteering experiences or just activities to do over the summer to make an impact on the community, I came across the Perception Foundation. Later that evening, I decided to apply, and weeks, months later after follow-ups, I realized I got the position. First, I was proud and impressed. Being a sophomore in high school, getting this position definitely meant a lot to me. But just after weeks, I realized that the title of getting this position meant absolutely nothing until I actually made an impact on my community and even state. So I started brainstorming, asking friends, family, peers, and even teachers from my school, how can I make an impact on my state from a young age? And then finally, I went back to what this nonprofit was all about. It was about empowering neurodiverse individuals and providing them with a safe environment and a place where they can learn and prosper with us. So weeks later, I finally realized that I have a whole community of special needs kids around me. In my school, where I find them during lunch, and where I even pass by them in the hallway. So I decided one day to meet up with their advisor and ask if I could post something small at the library for them. That Saturday evening, I hosted a small event with my board for making small slime activities, having board games such as chess, Monopoly, and even small computer games. After reflecting upon this later that evening, I might have felt this event being a little awkward for me, knowing that I've never spoken to these kids in my school, especially once or even twice. But then I realized it didn't matter if I found this event awkward, but rather it was if these kids around me enjoyed and was able to communicate freely and regularly around the peers around them. It wasn't about the fun activities like making slime or the board games, but rather it was a safe space and learning environment that I made around them. Like most kids and high schoolers like me, who maybe might feel included, it's not our intention to make people around us students, or even peers to feel excluded on a daily basis. It's just that maybe we as humans don't know it until we actually communicate and speak to them. Before I even joined this organization in the first place, I didn't even have an understanding of how naturally people might have felt separated, how separated naturally people might have felt. But after joining this organization, I realized Perception Foundation was trying to make an impact immediately, from community to community and state to state. Now let's return back to the same classroom one more time. There's still that one student on my left who's gazing up at the ceiling, another student on my right who's banging his pencil against the table vigorously, and two in the back who are just dozing off. Maybe their actions might not be wrong or even right, but it's rather they're just interpreting and perceiving the rest of the world completely differently. Know that every human acts differently. After joining Perception Foundation, it didn't just make me look at other nonprofits and organizations differently, but rather it taught me another way to notice people around me.
Wonderfully proud to speak to one. Thank you. Now, I welcome the audience to ask any questions or add any comments. Thank you, Sohan, for opening us to the harsh reality where mental health, unfortunately, can be stigmatized. We must strive for mental health support. Moving along, we have the opportunity to hear from Nandini Agarwal with her perspective on the importance of bringing art education to the community. In her speech, The Living Canvas. Hello.
You wrap it up in a quill and make an inductor.
Can I say hello?
Hello.
Holding your bum. Do you have this one? The other light? I think they just need stretching a little bit.
Say hello.
Hello. Until we fix some technical issues, please keep the questions coming for all the speeches. We have prepared long for this.
A blank wall is just a blank wall until someone decides that it means something. One person picks up a paintbrush and suddenly, strangers stop walking to look at this wall. Conversations begin in front of it. Photos get clicked beside it. A space that people once ignored now becomes a landmark for people to remember. This is the strange power of art. It transforms more than canvases. It transforms people, spaces, and communities. Art has existed for over 100,000 years. It was the first form of communication, long before any languages existed. It was used to bridge the gap between people who didn't necessarily speak in the same way. And yet, despite this power, art is often treated as if it's optional, something secondary, something decorative, or something extra. Something that only matters after everything important is taken care of. I want you to think back to a time when someone, a parent, a family member, perhaps a friend, told you that art can never be more than a hobby. It can only ever be something that you do outside of your school time or your work time. I'm pretty sure all of us have been in this situation. But I stand here today because I believe the opposite. I believe that art is essential, not because every person needs to become a wonderful artist, but because every person deserves to live in a world touched by creativity in an accessible, meaningful, and impactful manner. That is the cause that I advocate for. Bringing art education into the community in order to foster creativity and art among everyone. Through the National Art Honor Society, or NAHS for short, I have been able to contribute to my community using creative art service initiatives. For example, in my first year of joining NAHS, I was like any other high school member. I was pretty detached from my work, and I believed that joining these clubs were solely for the purpose of gaining points and becoming a board member. That was all I saw when I joined NAHS. So when I was assigned a project in which we would make clay hides for our local zoo, I thought it would be nothing more than maybe a few days just working on making something out of clay and then just submitting it and gaining the points and hours. That's genuinely all I thought it would be. So after my first period of working on this project, I actually became more invested. Rather than a couple of days that I thought it would take, I spent weeks, months working on this project, perfecting it. From the sculpting of the clay structure to firing of it in the kiln, then glazing it with ceramic glaze, firing again, and then getting it approved. This entire process was done by me. This piece had become so personal and something that I really appreciated because it was my first large-scale clay project, and it was something I was really proud of. So when the time came to submit this piece to my art teacher so that we could bring it to the zoo, I was honestly a little sad because I had spent so much time and effort on this piece. My after-school hours were all invested in perfecting this clay piece so that it could become a bowl or a shelter for an animal in the zoo. By the day of the field trip, when we would go to the zoo and learn about where these clay structures could potentially be placed, I didn't want to let go of my piece. I had too much attachment towards it, and I was honestly going to tell my advisor I can't give it away. But once I went to the first animal hide where there were lizards and chameleons, I saw their living space. Sure, it was clean, it was sanitary, but something was really striking about it. It was incredibly boring. It was just white walls, stainless steel bowls. It felt like a really depressing hospital, if I'm being honest. I was thinking to myself, how can anyone live there? It doesn't matter if they're not human. How do you keep someone in such a space and expect them to live? So after seeing how these animals lived, because although their conditions were clean, it was just terrible to look at, I decided something important. I would let go of my piece and give it away to the zoo solely for the purpose of making it a much brighter, more colorful place to be. That taught me something really important that day. Up until that field trip, I had only ever thought that art could be used as something personal, something individual. I had never thought you could use art to serve the community for the greater good. I had never thought of it before. But when I saw that my clay piece, the kind of effort and the hard work that I put into it, could be used to benefit another living being's life, I was astonished. It was something out of the extraordinary that I could use something to help another person, and I could use the talent and the skill that I've honed for years in order to help someone else. If you go inside my room, you'll see all of my life's artworks displayed on my walls. It's a beautiful sight to look at, watching the progression of my childhood artwork into my more professional artworks. But aside from being nice to look at, these pieces will only ever be good for collecting dust. I will never be able to use these pieces to impact my community because they will be sitting, hanging on my walls until the end of time. So this clay project taught me something important. I learned that you could literally use your talent and your skill to make something that could benefit another person, another living being, another animal. And if we all collectively did this, there were 40 other people on this trip with me. They all made their own clay hide, and they gave it away to the zoo. So we helped at least 40 animals live in a space that is less depressing, more colorful, like the reds of the mushrooms, or the greens of the clay grass, or the browns and the subtle oranges of the logs that we sculpted. This all made the living spaces just a little brighter. And you might be wondering, why would I spend months working on this project when I have easy access to generative AI? I mean, it is so easy to just go on your laptop and go into ChatGPT or Claude, type any detailed prompt that you want, and get artwork in seconds. I agree, it is so much easier, it's much more efficient to do that. But think about it. In those seconds, can AI replicate the soul, the dedication, and the effort that a real artist could put in their painting? Yes, you can make this prompt as detailed as you want. You can write about every single detail that you want. But you will never, ever be able to replicate the soul and the mind and all the thoughts that you're putting into artwork when you make it yourself. So it's really easy to just do whatever you want on ChatGPT. You could mass produce artwork, and that would be noble to donate to the community. But it would never have the kind of personality that you could have given it if you had made it yourself. That is what makes art so important. Everyone believes that art will be replaced by AI. Sure, it will be replaced by AI if we don't do something about it. Because art isn't just adding paint to a canvas. It isn't just making clay sculptures to put in your room. And it certainly isn't just sketching and doodling. It literally brings life back to the community. Art is used to foster life, creativity, and all these meaningful things that truly make our society a great place to be. No AI, no mechanization, nothing can ever create the kind of environment that real art actually does. I'm not saying that you need to be some kind of Picasso or Da Vinci to contribute to art in a meaningful manner. It is the drive and the passion for art that really makes it a great tool in our society. So, before I end today's speech, if I were to leave you off with anything, let it be this. The next time that someone tells you that can only ever be a hobby, art will be replaced by AI in the future, or art is useless because we have AI, let them know this. Art isn't just a tool you use to beautify the world. Although it's a great tool, that's not the only purpose that it serves. Art literally brings life back to the community.
Very insightful speech, Nandini. Thank you. Now, any questions or comments for Nandini?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for the wonderful speech. It gave a good feeling about knowing how art can influence or bring a lot of things to the community. My question here was, how do you think you use your artistic skill to bring peace or positivity to the humanity? What do you do?
So, in addition to making this clay hide that I did for an NHS, in general, I volunteer a lot. For example, recently I went to my local middle school and there was the whole art fair in which the middle school students that are currently in middle school, they displayed all of their years worth of artwork. And as a high school volunteer, I was there to do certain activities with the kids and I did henna. And that was something that really brightened people's days because it was just making their hands or their palms or any part of themselves that they wanted to decorate with henna just a little bit more beautiful. And I think that really did bring happiness to the community in that sense.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions or comments? Yes?
Hi, great speech by the way. So I'm a very non-artistic person. I'm really bad at drawing and painting. So how do you think that someone like me could get started and try making a bigger impact in my community using art?
So the National Art Society, it isn't the only tool that you can use to, contribute to art in your community, but supporting local initiatives, there are many art initiatives that you could be a part of, that you could just advocate for. The most important thing that you can do right now in an age where art is at stake of ceasing to exist is just advocating for it, supporting local initiatives, and just making sure that you can speak about art and show people why it matters so much.
Great. Thank you. We took a question from Mike. Any other questions?
Oh, hi. Great speech, by the way. I had one question about your experience in the nonprofit. Aside from the clay, aside from the clay project that you've done, have you done any other projects with the National Art Honor Society?
So, aside from this clay project, as I said before, I did do henna stations at the local middle school, and I am part of this group that meets after school on Thursdays, where we go to an elementary school in my district, and we help fifth graders paint murals on their walls just to decorate the school. And I recall that in December, when it was holiday season, we made I would say about 500 to 600 holiday cards to donate to the Hands of Hope Pantry or local churches. So in general, the National Art Honor Society is always proactive with our activities that could support the community.
Memory for showing up how art, which should just be a hobby for some, can be in fact so transformative for the community. You prove that art education is still essential for all. In the audience, please keep the same curiosity and enthusiasm for the speakers to come. Now, we're joined to hear about adapted tennis programs for children and teens with autism in the speech titled Acting Autism Through Tennis, and hear Patel's experience with advocating those causes. And as a reminder to all students, please continue filling out your worksheets.
Imagine not being able to do the things that most kids take for granted, like joining a sports team, making friends after practice, or feeling confident enough to even speak to other people. For a lot of kids with autism, sports can feel less like a game and more like a place where they don't quite fit in. I've been playing tennis for a couple of years now, and honestly, I've always taken that opportunity for granted. I never thought about how difficult it could be for some children to even enter a sports environment in the first place. However, on Sunday afternoons in Monroe, New Jersey, I saw something completely different. I saw kids finally feel comfortable enough to step out onto the tennis court. I saw parents celebrating small moments of progress and achievements their children had made. And I saw volunteers creating a very welcoming and supportive space for every child that stepped onto the court. That's exactly where acing autism came into play. A couple months into this year, I started volunteering with Acing Autism, a nonprofit organization aimed at helping children with autism learn to play tennis in a safe, supportive, and very adaptive environment. Those afternoons of volunteering changed the way I think about sports, opportunity, and what it truly means to include people. To understand why this matters, it's important to look at the reality many children with autism face in the US. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, about 1 in 36 children in the United States is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. But beyond that number is a deeper issue: access. A study by the National Library of Medicine found that children with autism are significantly less likely to participate in sports and physical activities compared to their peers, with participation rates dropping by a staggering 80%, often due to a mix of social and emotional barriers rather than lack of ability. That statistic is more than just a number. It represents the thousands of children who are missing out on crucial opportunities for growth, building confidence, gaining friends, staying active, and exploring interests, simply because these programs aren't designed to support them. Adding on, children with autism struggle in sports settings due to loud noises, social pressure, and fast-paced spaces can all combine to create a very stressful environment. However, there's a solution to this problem. Research from the Harvard Graduate School of Education found that structured and supportive programs can significantly improve confidence and social engagement for children with developmental differences. In other words, when we create an environment that meets children where they are, instead of expecting them to adapt on their own, they're far more likely to succeed. That's exactly why Acing Autism stood out to me. The program is built around patience and encouragement. Instead of forcing kids to adapt to one specific environment, the environment actually adapts to them. All the activities and games we had set up for our participants were tailored based on how they were feeling that day. Some participants were enthusiastic and ready to hit dozens of balls, while others were a little bit hesitant and were happy to simply play with the tennis balls themselves. When I first started volunteering, I also realized that progress looked much different from I was used to sports. There were no trophies or rankings that mattered. Success came in much smaller moments, you could say. I remember one little girl, let's call her Arya, who attended the program regularly. One week, Arya would happily play tennis and participate in all the activities. Yet, the following week, everything could change. I remember her hit just one ball before suddenly becoming overwhelmed as she started crying in front of her parents, having to take several laps around the tennis court just to calm down. At first, moments like these confused me. I wondered what had changed so quickly over that week. But over time, I began to realize that each day can bring many challenges for these kids. What may seem like a small obstacle to us can feel enormous to them. The lesson here was that Arya didn't need to play perfect tennis. The lesson was that she kept wanting to come back regularly and that every week her parents and us volunteers continued to. I also met another older participant, let's call him Andrew, during our second session, which was for middle and high school students.
Andrew was an amazing tennis player. He could rally very well, understood the game and strategy, and he had great conversations with us volunteers. Spending time with Andrew challenged a lot of stereotypes people have about autism. Autism itself exists on a spectrum, meaning every individual has their strengths and has their weaknesses. Some participants were quiet and hesitant, while others, like Andrew, were extremely confident, outgoing, and highly skilled. That experience taught me that we should never define someone by a diagnosis before getting to know who they truly are. My experience at Acing Autism also taught me patience. It taught me to listen more carefully and pay attention to different ways people communicate. And most importantly, it changed the way I think about opportunity. Before volunteering, I assumed opportunity naturally existed for everyone. But over time, I now realize that opportunity sometimes has to be created. It takes people who are willing to make spaces more welcoming, inclusive, and encouraging for every individual to take part in and enjoy. So now I'd like to leave you all with this core challenge. Don't assume someone else will always make opportunities for children with disabilities. Be the one to step up. Volunteer your time. Support organizations like Acing Autism, for example. Or advocate in your community to help give rise to more programs that welcomes every individual, regardless of their abilities. The children I met at Acing Autism didn't need us to feel sorry. No, they needed us to believe in them. And if more of us choose to be those people, we'll build communities where everyone has the chance to succeed and grow to their fullest potential. Thank you.
Excellent job, Tira. I'm showing how sports such as tennis can be so impactful for many people. Now I turn to the audience for any questions or comments. Yes, can I speak?
What is the name? I'm sorry, one more time.
Me or the
Yeah, you.
Tira.
See,
Yeah.
you have done fantastic job and inclusive nature of that autism thing. But thank you for volunteering. Thank you for being patient with the people, and thank you for explaining us how important it is to be, not showing pity for them, but showing inclusive and understanding them and being more patient. I really love it the way you explained. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I did nice job. My family is full of tennis, so I just have a few questions. You was talking about spreading awareness. So how do you do that?
I feel like we can spread awareness, especially through students. In schools, you can raise fundraisers, or honestly, just spread it through social media, especially since there's not many programs like this in the world itself. And so I feel like raising advocacy through students especially is a great way we can raise awareness and really help out these kids who need it most.
Yeah, but what was the mode which you used it before? You said you conducted few programs, right? So what was the mode you did? Like what did you choose to do? How did you spread that?
So I didn't necessarily like spread it, but I volunteered my time mostly. So I didn't really spread the advocacy itself. So I don't think I can answer that question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
So I'm a tennis player myself, and I was wondering if you thought there was anything specific to tennis that lends itself well to people with autism and how it can help them grow.
Yeah, so I think sports in general can help everyone, whether it be through confidence or just making friends. And so I feel like through tennis, we were able to connect more with these kids, especially since not many people would really want to talk to these kids in general, right? So I feel like through tennis, we were able to talk with them, we were able to play with them, and I feel like that was really a good combination between tennis and helping these kids.
It's a great speech.
Thank you. Children and teens with autism can benefit from these adaptive tennis programs. And also a great thank you to the audience members for being so inquisitive and asking many great questions from the speakers today. Last, but definitely not least, is Shashwat's sense of humor, talking about providing opportunities for talented young musicians to participate in musical performances at levels beyond what is offered by school bands and orchestras. In his speech called Providing Musical Opportunities for Kids.
Back for a moment. Set aside the music, forget the instruments, but just travel back in time to a moment in your childhood. Think of a time when you felt you were truly exceptional at something. Maybe it was for drawing, painting, playing a sport, or even making the people around you laugh. Yet, throughout all that time performing in front of other people, you must have had that little voice inside your head. The voice that's telling you, I'm capable of so much more than what these people are asking of me. During a time like that, has anyone ever pushed you? Has a critic ever raised the bar? Or did you simply just drift, staying at the same skill level you were for so much more time to come? You see, truth about human potential is far different than what we think. Talent doesn't disappear with a bang. It doesn't magically announce its departure, but instead it quietly fades. Like a candle being stuffed in a room where no one's remembered to open the windows. And that's how I felt for so long while playing my instrument, the one thing that I love most. After some time, I was sleepwalking through the very thing I was supposed to love. And the flame that had so much passion when I started dying out. And that was all until I found YCJ. At around 11 or 12 years old, I started playing my instrument in my school band orchestra. And considering my previous experience playing the piano, this was something that I picked up quite recently and efficiently. My teachers told me I had natural talent, and my parents saw me practicing every day and constantly improving. Yet, while by conventional metrics, I was doing above average, there was something else I was missing. There was the drive that I once had to practice so much that started to quietly fade. I would walk into every single rehearsal feeling comfortable, fully aware of what I was about to play. And yet, comfort, for a kid who has real potential, is the most dangerous place in the world to be. And it's that exact feeling that I felt for so long, being trapped in that sense of comfort, until I walked into my first YCJ rehearsal. When I finally got to the Youth Orchestra of Central Jersey and I walked into my first rehearsal there, I felt scared. Not scared because the people around me frightening, but because they all had precision. They played with intention, and they didn't just read the notes and rhythms off the page, but instead, they crafted a story through the music that they played. And it was that exact same intention that I used in order to better myself as an instrumentalist. Going through these rehearsals didn't just make me a better musician, but it started making me a collaborator and someone who could understand the space and be more connected with the people around me. I remember at one of the very first concerts I had a solo, and for so long, I always had so much stage fright. I would have never believed that at 12 years old, I'd be now speaking on a stage in front of all you all, because I couldn't even play my instrument properly when the lights were shining down on a concert hall. But yet, after all this time performing in front of my peers, I picked up my instrument, I played my heart's content out, and I saw the conductor smile. And that was the very first time when I finally felt I belonged here.
Now, I'm sure you might be wondering, this sounds like a great story and all, but maybe you don't claim it's true. Maybe your kids aren't in band or orchestra. Why does this matter? Well, the truth is, this is far from just music. Think back to the very first question I asked you, about if you ever truly felt exceptional at something. Was there ever a mentor pushing you? Was someone ever raising the bar and constantly making you progress to becoming a version of yourself that was far beyond what you ever could have become? What version of yourself was lacking if that right environment wasn't there? You see, that's the exact kind of situation that so many kids around New Jersey are in. Because they have the potential, they have the talent, but they don't have someone to motivate. You see, when we don't provide an opportunity for a kid like that, we don't just lose out on a confident adult. We don't just lose out on a creative problem solver, but we lose out on someone who realizes that persevering through difficulty is the entire point. And that loss belongs to all of us. Founded in 1978, YOCJ has spent nearly 5 decades trying to mitigate this exact problem. With over 12 ensembles and 200 participants, they've spent countless hours creating ensembles where students can come and join and play out their heart's content. And it's that exact kind of community that's helped me to become the player that I am today. But the thing is, talent isn't rare, but access isn't equally distributed. The kids who are aware of all these elite youth conservatories and world-class private teachers come from families who are aware of them, and those who can afford them. Everyone else, they're either left to stay at the same skill level for so long, or simply quit. Tuition assistance exists at YCJ because the people who founded it understood that a kid's potential shouldn't be limited by the amount of money in their parents' bank account. You see, as a society, we tend to often focus on the big red flags, the things that are of immediate importance and urgency, but we don't consider what often happens when potential goes unsupported. We don't ever hold a press conference for the kid who stopped playing their instrument. We don't ever question why they stopped, but we just let it happen. What if that kid who stopped practicing could have become the next Yo-Yo Ma, the next Taylor Swift, or the next pop star? And the truth is, we'll never know because no one was ever there to motivate them when it mattered the most. And it's that exact kind of community that YFCJ provides in order to give an opportunity for every single student to get better. And it's those tight-knit communities that I've still had to get some of my best friends to this day, like Sohan, who's actually sitting at that table. So, no matter how it goes, musical opportunity is something that every kid should have the opportunity to access. Because sometimes your closest friends are found in the most unexpected places. Now, I'm not here to tell you that I'm going to become some professional musician or I'm some amazing person. But the truth is, I managed to find the stage that I am on today by walking into the right group. And it's that exact opportunity that every kid deserves in order to showcase their talents the most. If you do choose to support YCJ, you aren't just creating a bigger concert hall or the next music department, but instead, you're creating the opportunity where a terrified 12-year-old can come onto a stage, play their heart out, and finally think, I belong here. And I know that because I was that kid. Because YCJ believed in me before I fully believed in myself. The truth is, talent isn't rare, but access is. Every kid deserves a room big enough to fill up what they're capable of. But sometimes, all they need is help building it.
Fantastic speech, Joshua. It's great to see the impact that music education can make for so many people. Now, the floor is to the audience again for any questions or comments for Joshua.
So that was a really great speech, and you talked about how important music is for kids, but there are some parents or people who think that academics is more important and they don't really want to invest in their kids' musical talent. What do you have to say to those type of people who don't think music is as important?
Well, I think that there's a direct correlation between academic performance and music performance. We've already been seen in multiple studies that kids who participate in musical extracurriculars often perform way better cognitively than kids who solely focus on academics. And I think that's a really important correlation to make because musical opportunity does provide that kind of relief and exit for academic stress. And it's something that parents should consider because it truly does take you a really long way.
Excellent speech, Shaswat. Just building upon what she said, right? Have you ever thought about the link between music and leadership?
Yeah, of course. So I think being in like a tight-knit community full of people, like I know at a lot of ensembles I've played at, I've built a lot of friendships. And I think that's the kind of community that you can build within being in these music departments. And you kind of gain a lot of leadership skills. Like I know in a lot of ensembles there's opportunities like section leader, whatever like that. And you can really get a lot of leadership opportunities through music because at some point there's some roles that a conductor can't fill on their own and they're going to require students to fill in and step on and take opportunities and roles. So music can make you a better leader and it can make you someone who's more capable of just speaking to your peers and understanding what they want.
Yeah.
Sahil. I mean, earlier friend who spoke about autism. How do you think you can use your music skill to help autistic people or especially kids?
I think, like personally for me, I know a lot of people with autism who do play musical instruments, and I find that actually sometimes just being able to take, like for an autistic child, there's a lot of problems in their life. There's a lot of things that they struggle with, but sometimes music is that outlet. And that's like the kind of opportunity that they can really focus their skills on and really implement it into a way where these kids aren't being judged and they can really pursue their passion through music. And I think that's an opportunity that a lot of the ensembles have because a lot of people in music, they don't judge. And by being inclusive towards all these kinds of different people, they're able to use that outlet through music and make themselves a better person. So I think music does have those opportunities. For autistic kids, they just need to be able to find it. For sure.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in your speech, you talk a lot about how talent is useless without access, and I think that's a message that resonated a lot with me. So how do you think that mantra can be applied to other, like in sports or in academics or any other topic apart from music?
I think the concept of access being more prevalent in a lot of different like extracurricular opportunities, it matters because there's obviously a lot of kids with musical talent at a young age, but the thing is, not all of them are aware of the opportunities that they have. And I think it's really important for us, like just as a society, to make those opportunities more accessible and to really showcase to parents especially, because they're the ones that are ending up like bringing up their kids' future hobbies, right? I think they just need to be more aware of the opportunities that like music and sports and all these other things have. And by improving awareness, access just becomes something that's easier to carry out. The main thing is just a lack of awareness, and I think by trying to like further incentivize extracurricular development through lots of things like sports and whatever it is, that people are able to find these opportunities and take advantage of.
Thank you, Shasha, for your outstanding speech on the importance of music education and helping young musicians get higher level opportunity for musical performances. Today, we have heard great speeches from 13 dedicated speakers who are not only speaking and bringing awareness for their causes, but also volunteering and actively working towards a better future. Thank you to all our youth leaders today for their amazing speeches upon various important social issues. It was truly so inspiring to see our students fight for causes they're so passionate about. It's also been so moving to see these youth leaders be such trailblazers today. They're not only excellent speakers, but also excellent leaders. Now, I would like to have Ms. Priya come to the stage and give a few words about the event today and the progress that our youth leaders have made.
Okay, yes, big round of applause. First of all, I would want to talk to the parents. How does it feel? Proud? Great?
It's great.
Right? Something that not many, I'm telling you, I have been training for the past 25 years. There's not many people in the world who has the caliber, the attitude, and the confidence to do what they just did today. So, very nice, very proud. The work part, it's just not about I'm trying to remember something and then I'm coming and speaking up. When we opened Enfluence 2026, this stage does a lot to students. And the first thing that they would realize is what is something more that they need to do in order to make sure that they become the leader that they want to be. And again, this is not ending point. This is a beginning point to something really big. So they are here to commence something new. And for the next 10 minutes, you're going to watch what that new is. So that is what it's all going to be. To start off with, let us start with a celebration where they worked hard. They have the certificates and they have their trophies. So parents, please keep your cameras ready. And we are going to go with the alphabetical order of their last name, and that is how we are going to move on. So we'll quickly go in one after the other. We can announce the names.
Yeah, I'm Polly. Arjun Balani. Neil Javeri. Anik Dutta. Currently busy. Start forward. Annika Meda. Here Patel. Ashwa Senthilkumar. Martha Shirdokan.
Sure. Congratulations once again. And now, what is the journey about? So, the first step of leadership, when you look at it, they just already started. It's the attitude to give back to people around you. And many people misinterpret leadership. Leadership is all about bossing around people, which is not. Leadership is where you put others as a priority and then you start the backseat. The person who eats last, the person who leaves the ship last when it's sinking, that's the leader. And that is what we want these people to be because that is what corporate America needs tomorrow. And when we want to train them, the best way is to train them on the job. So the moment they have gotten a glimpse of what it takes to be a leader, how to serve a community, how to speak up for what I believe in front of an audience, shows them that they are prepared to do something extra. So for the act of doing this, we call them influencers. So I would like to welcome the 2026 influencers. We have a proper swearing in ceremony. It's a big deal. Not many people get to do it. So we have the first step of qualifying for becoming an influencer is a privilege to wear something that we give. So I would like to call upon Sai and Dhyani to welcome our 2026 influencers. Why don't you all come here?
You guys can all go.
So from this moment onwards, yes, I'm not going to go to this side. Yes. From this moment onwards, they qualify to wear the influencer shirt. It is a privilege. Not everybody gets to qualify for this. So now that they have proven that they are future leaders of the world, so they get to see it. So welcome to the elite club of influencers. So the moment they wear this, we have an expectation. You would have seen a lot of people wearing these blue shirts today, and you would have seen what they were doing, right? It is just not about I'm sitting here, attending some event. It is where we inculcate the attitude of true leadership, how I need to be proactive, how I need to think ahead of things. So there are a lot of things that go, and they officially start the shadowing, or which is called the internship, from tomorrow onwards. There's no break. So yes, so we will be giving you more information on what the internships. So each and every student who is standing up here on stage are qualified to become the intern at Inspire Academy. So welcome to the Elite Club. So we will be doing a grilling shadowing for the next 2.5 months till September. So there are certain requirements that they will be doing, and after that, they will be officially becoming an intern in fall of 2026. So again, the next session of grilling things start, so looking forward to that. And now, without further ado, we also want to recognize some of our interns who have been showcasing. Each and every one of our interns at Inspire Academy is a gem. You would have already seen that, okay? The first person who you met at the registration desk or near the coffee table or inside, the taking care of the tech, they have been sitting here from 11 a.m. in the morning. And this is the kind of dedication that they have shown. While we have an excellent team, we still believe that we need to recognize certain people who go above and beyond. They do more than what is expected. They go beyond what they're capable of. They show the dedication and commitment in such a way that somehow nothing seems to run without them, right? So we are going to recognize one person today, and that is Dhyanisha. So yes, this is, we call the star performer. So let's give a big round of applause. So the star performer award presented to Dhyanisha. So talk a little bit about Dhyani. She has been working with these students. Not only that, she has been interning for the past 4 years, and she exactly knows what it is. And beyond a point, even you would have experienced this. You work in a company for 4 years and then, okay, I know what it is. It's okay. I can get away with it, right? We all go on a slow mode, right? It's okay, I know my boss. I can handle him. It's okay, I don't need to do it. The energy and the vibe that you have on the day one of your work, I don't think you have it at year 4 or year 5. You agree with me or not?
Yes.
Okay? You're looking at a girl who is at her first day of the job, even at the end of 4 years. Can you believe it? Imagine her life in the corporate America. She's going to go places. So amazing, lovely. And you should believe, the moment we have a problem, Thomas picks up the phone and says, let me call Dhyani. And she's always available for anything and everything. Thank you for that. It was amazing. I think we're trying to learn more people, and each and every time we want to make sure that everyone gets the award. It's not, we are not limiting it to one, we're limiting to, we are ready to give it to everyone, and it all depends on that. Congratulations. Thank you, Larry. Okay, now we have the formal, let's get all the blue shirts up, our valuable interns who have been. And now we have a ceremony where we invite them with a group cake cutting. So, can you get the center table here? Here, wait, take two please. Adisha,
It's on the cake. It's on top.
so this is a very unique cake cutting. I don't know if you have noticed this before. So the cake is going to be there. And every one of the new influencers who are sworn in today needs to be part of the cake cutting. So that's the trick here. Okay. So what the easiest way to do it, all of you come together. Yes? Yeah. Make sure that everybody needs to touch the knife. Everybody has to touch the knife, so make sure you do that. Yeah.
We have to touch.
Everybody has to touch the knife. That's the tricky part. Everybody has to touch the knife.
We're just good.
The shot was not bad. Please not touch it. No. Shot is far away.
I can't see any.
Far away. Okay, so everybody, not Sharon, right? Sharon is still not touching. Sharon is also. You know, that's we do the impossible, guys. Come on, welcome to the club. Ready? Are you all ready? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Welcome. Okay. So welcome guys, thank you. And thank you for being a support and being part of it. Thank you very much. We are going to serve the cake as well. It's for all of us. So please wait and take some more dessert. We have a lot of dessert and we have some tea. And we look forward to meeting you soon. Thank you very much for being here.